Hello and welcome again to another episode. Today we're going to talk about how to monitor and win public tenders and talk a little bit about the market size and best practices. My guest today is Stefan Morcov from Hermix. Stefan, warm welcome. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did it come to Hermix? What's your story?
Hi, Thomas. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's lovely to be here. So I'm Stefan, computer software engineer and developer. My whole life has been back-end distributed enterprise applications, but also moved quite early to sales, so public sector projects, a lot of pan-European platforms for communication between professors, teachers in the consumer area, in the digital skills area, a lot of e-learning, pan-European e-learning and education portals and so on. So my whole life has been somewhere between education, e-learning, public sector projects, and I'm very passionate about technology and innovation and project management, especially complex projects. Actually, a couple of years ago, I managed to finalize my PhD in the management of very complex, large IT infrastructure projects here
Okay.
in Belgium, in Leuven.
That's a whole topic in itself. I can see ourselves talk a little bit more about that. I'm actually also find myself a lot in these complex projects more often than not in kind of turnaround situations where people say like, "Oh, what should we do now?" Because complex projects have their own dynamics. So let's park that for another episode. But talking a little bit about public tenders and the market, especially in Europe, what has been your insight over the years? You've been very much involved in this, right?
So indeed, it's a very specific market, the public sector, and it's quite distinct from all the other markets. And when we started to do systematic Hermix, and we took it systematically, like in academia, we started by researching the literature, the previous research in the area, and it was amazing and surprising, fascinating to see that there is almost no previous research. We started this domain is a little bit like from scratch. So where you see for the last 20 years, we had a number of revolutions in commerce, for instance, with the apparition of e-commerce, like Amazon platforms. In publications, you have Google and search platforms in knowledge management and so on. And even in B2B sales, in business to business, we have the revolution of ERPs and analytics tools, where in the public sector, there was pretty much nothing. So this is how we came, how we created Hermix, with the idea that this is the moment, the right moment, the market is prepared for a revolution brought by new technologies and by data that is going to transform public sector tendering and sales, pretty much the same as retail has been transformed by e-commerce applications during the past 20 years. The specifics of the market, I actually like a lot public sector and doing projects, especially with European institutions, with the European Commission, and with the European agencies, with the World Bank and the UN. For instance, first of all, we have to note that these kind of projects are also have a social aspect. Governments and public institutions are not foremost economically driven. They have a social mission, a societal mission. But also, it's very interesting and specific because it's huge. And this is something that people typically don't see. But if you think about it, everything that happens on the streets, infrastructure, airports, hospitals, libraries, schools, kindergartens, universities, research, pretty much everything is public sector. And when it comes to spending, a huge amount of this is contracts, which are regulated, which go to a specific suppliers. And as I was saying, it's a different world with its different rules um, and guidelines and best practices on how to win. What I could notice during the past, let's say, 20 years is that data is more and more available. transparency is increasing. There are public policies and regulations that are more that are pushing towards more competition, more transparency, also for the participations of small companies, SMEs, on this market. Um, and also a very interesting trend is that the budgets are actually growing. There was a very short period during the 2009, 2010 economic crisis where there were discussions about efficiencies. And of course, the public sector is always talking about efficiency and stuff like this. But in practice, the budgets are always growing, and it's a stable market with very few exceptions, like some countries that had problems during crisis, but very few exceptions. It's a very stable market because the government is printing the money, so payment are almost guaranteed, budgets are there, there is predictability and huge amounts of money. On the other hand, the competition is not so high as the competition in B2B or in the retail business. So if you want to buy whatever, a computer, you have 200 suppliers, 200 brands, and 4,000 shops from where you can buy one computer. Whereas in the public sector, you typically see two, three, rarely seven, eight proposals being made for one huge projects like a highway or the construction of a hospital. How many proposals do you get? Two or three. And we talk about hundreds of millions of euros. And why? Because it's difficult to enter the market. The effort for entering the market, for writing a proposal, for choosing the best proposal is huge. We were talking with our customers and partners, and they were saying that writing a proposal for 3 4 months with a team of 10 20 people can raise the cost up to maybe 200,000 300,000 euros only to write a proposal, and of course you don't know if you are winning it.
Yeah, that absorbs a lot of time and resources. No, I can I can absolutely confirm that. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, you're saying the market is big, the market is growing, the potential project sizes are quite substantial. What is a good practice for, let's say, a company in Europe, for example, to participate in this market tenders? It's quite a jungle to that you need to maneuver. How could they find out what is a good fit for them?
So I always, as I was saying earlier, I always enjoy the strategic approaches. Meaning, can I share my screen? Is it possible to share a presentation? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you
Yes, I
can.
can.
There's a
Yes, I
sharing
can.
button. Yes.
Here I am.
Mhm.
So, as I was saying earlier, I like strategic approaches. And talking about strategic approaches, I think the ingredient, allow me to find this one. The key ingredient for winning public sector sales, I have this diagram with 6 ingredients. There is a strategic view and a tactical view. From a strategic point of view, you need to understand the market to choose your markets. So you need market know-how. You need to have to establish yourself a good brand, reputation, and stuff like this. And the tactical market, the tactical aspect is monitoring, monitoring the market, monitoring tenders every day, qualifying them, and writing them. So all of these are ingredients that are useful. So basically, what we do is we monitor tenders every day, and we qualify the pipeline. There are not so many tenders, but they are big. Each tender in the public sector tends to be a bigger than you would find in B2B and obviously retail. So you see a good tender, or you prepare the next tenders for the next year, and you need to qualify this project. Say this is a good fit for me or not, and to create the approach, the best approach. What price do I want? What is the price point that can win this project? Which are the best partners that I can take in a consortium? What is the technology that I want to choose? And then obviously you need to write the tender. all of this that I said now takes a huge effort. So it goes to months of research and effort to write, compile CVs, and so on. The strategic approach is the long term, where you need to choose the battlefields. I want to go in this market. I want to work for this type of customer in these countries for this type of projects. What kind of delivery do I choose? From what delivery center do I want to deliver, and so on. You need to analyze a lot of historical data to understand the markets and the customers and gathering business intelligence. That takes also a lot of effort because, as I was saying, I was doing this manually. I did it manually my whole life with Excel, and I think everybody does that.
That's
There are-
that's crazy, right? But I mean,
yeah,
a lot of
it's a
companies are
stone
doing
age.
that. Excel has become mission critical for that. No? But you touch an important point, no? So how do you take the let's say the manual work out of that? I guess you need to have some kind of logic behind it, and probably also some connectivity to a CRM that you typically work with, right?
Right. So this is where this is how we started Hermix. So we looked at, I was talking to a friend actually. It was almost 4 years ago. And I was talking to a friend talking about, I really wanted to do some hardcore data development and software development for the next step in my life. As I said previously, I did a lot of tenders. It was a great business. Actually, we had together some collaborations in my previous life. I was working with Tremend. We did a great business with Tremend for European institutions, and now Tremend was acquired and is part of the big group Publicis. So I I was talking to my colleague, and I was saying, I know this market quite well. I know where the data is. I have a lot of data myself and business intelligence. I know how to make meaning of it. And he said at the time, if you have data, we can produce gold out of it. So this is how we came out with Hermix. We started from market know-how and know-how about data and technology. So what we do, the mission was to help companies win public contracts, public sector tenders. So we clean up a lot of data. We are a data technology company, and we monitor daily tenders from a lot of data sources. We cover the European Union from European procurement portals. We download documents, tender notices, contract awards. We clean up and curate a lot of spending data, numbers. We clean up all this data, and then we are able to analyze tenders, saying this tender is a good fit for you, this tender is not a good fit, these are the requirements, these are the technical, economic, financial criteria that are needed to participate or to win in this project. And more than that, we go to market intelligence, like analyzing these are the previous suppliers, these are the previous projects, these are the relevant context information that would be needed to compile in order to make a winning proposal. That's market intelligence, going up to things like market analysis. Who are the typical partnerships, the typical competitors? Who are the typical suppliers in a particular market? Like say a market, how we define a market, it's something like um, um, health equipment machinery in Belgium. That would be the definition of one market. Or IT equipment for schools in the northern countries. What I said now, health schools, that's public sector. So whenever you buy a phone in a school, that's a public procurement.
Mhm. Okay, so you what I understand is you're pulling historical data also to understand who are the typical bidders in the segment. Is that
Yeah, absolutely. So we provide information like actually I could show you one or two examples of reports.
Mhm.
I will create them on the fly. And let's reshare this again. Yeah, I'm a bit spontaneous here,
Yeah,
but
very good.
this makes things interesting. So, for instance, this would be an analysis of what the software services market in Belgium. You have number and value of contracts, and you
That's
have the
exactly what
typical.
you said, no? It's an increasing market, no? So who would have thought that? I thought there's
It's
more
always
on public budget and public sector spend, but it's growing quite continuously.
always increasing, and actually I can show you even the European Commission 20 years of trends in spending, and you could see, yeah, only for the European Commission, this is 20 years of spending. You see, 20 years ago, the budget of the Commission was 11 billion per year, whereas now it's 200 billion per year. This is an exponential increase.
That's a
The
really
last
interesting data point. Yes.
the last 4 years were impacted by the COVID crisis. In 2020, the Commission started to infuse a lot of money in national countries. And then in the last 2, 3 years, we had the European Recovery and Resilience Plan. So these are actually loans taken by the Commission from the member states and redistributed to member states. But see, that's public sector money. And even before that, every year there is an increase. Even in 2009, 2011, there were some efforts to have a decrease here. As I was saying, the trend is always high. So this is the type of reports that we are providing. For instance, these here are the suppliers of IT for European institutions. You can see the companies, you can see the profiles of companies. For each company, you can see what they are doing. Like we have company profiles as well with contact points with the market of these organizations for their markets, who are their best customers, their competition, reports like this.
That's really a gold mine, no? Because I mean, the first thing that you have to make up your mind about is which market, which segments can I reasonably enter and compete with. No? I was just having an export import oriented workshop in the last week, no? And this would have been a great topic for that. Maybe I can share the video with the group later on. But that was exactly the point, no? How to select the market, what's the trend in the market, who are the other alternatives that are out there competing with me, and what is the deal size that I can expect from that. No? That's fantastic. On one of the slides, you also mentioned AI, obviously. No? So tell us a little bit about how AI changed the game plan for you.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that we are at the right moment for a disruption in this market, and AI is on top of everything that we've been having for the last couple of years, because data has been around, data and data science has been around for quite a while. We've been playing with huge amounts of data, calling it in different ways, for maybe 10, 20 years. And with the cloud, we have the possibility to play even more. And now we have machine learning and artificial intelligence that allows for even more impact. So we have a market that is big, that is not really impacted by technology yet, and where technology is entering. This is what I believe is going to create a disruption. The way we use data, so on one side for data cleanup, for the analysis of markets, but also for understanding requirements of tenders. Again, a practical example. So this is a tender for a European agency, the European Environment Agency. So you have here a summary of the project, you have collaboration tools and stuff like this. But look, we have also the tender context, like previous suppliers, the map of previous suppliers, countries that are relevant, you have previous relevance projects and who won them before, but we go even to technical analysis. Like, for instance, this is the analysis of the requirements, the objectives, the budgets of this project, even going to award criteria like price 30% importance and technical merit 70, and even to economic financial capacity, minimum turnover, manpower, CVs, and going to work packages and deliverables. And we also deploy chats. You can talk directly to the tender and get information if you want to drill down into details. So we are basically using a combination between data analytics, machine learning, data curation, engineering, and going to GPT and large language models, where we go into language analysis of the requirements and structuring of this. And where we are moving towards is obviously automating the whole proposal process, because That effort, after you choose, okay, I want to do this tender, and you understand how it's done, you go to the process of actually writing a tender. So we are deploying tools to automate the process of proposal structuring, going up to helping teams organize and deliver a winning proposal.
So the Kanban board that you just showed here is basically built into your solution, right? So I mean that's fantastic. I guess based on my exposure to this sector, one question is of course, okay, what do you want to bid for, and is it a good fit? But then you also need to project manage it accordingly, because there are deadlines. You constantly need to stay up to date on the Q&A that is being exchanged until you submit the proposal, and that's all unpaid work. No? Nobody is ever going to pay you for preparing a tender proposal. No? So if you can take the uncertainty out of that, increase the odds of entering the right proposals, increasing the odds of winning it, that's a massive game changer, right?
Absolutely. The idea is to increase the odds of winning. That's the
Mm.
basic idea. Of course, you are also targeting as a secondary objective the quality of the delivery, because if you choose the right technology and the right partners and the right price, um, then the chances to have a successful project are higher. On the other hand, the biggest objective is how to write the winning proposal.
Yeah,
So
of course, no? But that's also where AI can be a big help, no? So I think the cool thing is here you're dealing with an enormous amount of structured and unstructured data, no? Which is provided unstructured data in terms of the tender and reference documentation, etc., and extracting that within no time. That's really already a big productivity boost. No?
that's indeed our vision.
Yeah.
So this is the vision that we actually formalized a few months ago. Also talking with our clients, like with my colleagues, where are we going? I need to talk to you about my colleagues. I have an incredible. We have an incredible team. So talking with my colleagues, where are we going with this? We made the observation that we are basically building an assistant of the pre-sales and bid team and sales team. Like, you have a meeting, and in the meeting, you need to answer to questions like the first question that you mentioned earlier: can I do this tender? Do I want to do this tender? And then you start going into more technical details, like what is the technology, the partnerships, what do we know about this customer? Have we ever worked with this customer? Who and who delivered that? So what we are building is that tool, that robot that looks a little bit like data from Star Trek, right? The image, which is obviously AI generated. We are building that tool, that platform that becomes part of the sales and bid teams and are always friendly, reliable, efficient, smart,
Yeah.
able to analyze thousands of requirements from 200 technical annexes of this standard to scan. We have 11 million contracts in our historical database that we scanned and analyzed, and hundreds of thousands of documents. So our Hermix is able to go through all this in a couple of seconds and say and give answers to questions like, do I need a data science expert? Do I need to deliver quality assurance? What certifications are required? And why? Why do I need a quality assurance or a security expert? And with Hermix, you can answer to this kind of instantly, because in chapter 3, there is a deliverable related to data privacy and penetration testing and so on and so on. And that's why I need this expert. So this is the vision that we are building now, piece by piece. And with AI, yes, it is transformative. At the same time, it's still early stage. And when you do a 10 million or 100 million tender, you need to be extremely precise. That's why we are deploying these tools with quite a lot of care. You need to be careful about security. So you are dealing with big amounts of money. So security and confidence is important. Not also from a point of view of accuracy, data accuracy. So the data that we provide needs to have a high degree of correctness. As you are saying, the raw data that you get from public sources like Google or procurement portals, it's typically dirty, it's gray. People write things manually, they give a wrong company name, wrong values, wrong addresses. So our huge focus is to clean up all of this data. Um,
Okay. That's fantastic. Wow, that was really an eye opener. No? So big market, a lot of opportunities, and now we have great new help in order to increasing the odds of taking uncertainty out of this, increasing the odds of winning. That's fantastic. Is there anything else that we should share with our audience at this point in time? Have we forgotten anything?
I was mentioning earlier that I'm incredibly proud of where we got. So we have almost 4 years, incredible team, and we are working all over Europe, especially in Western Europe. We are honored and proud of working with uh, large companies from various areas, including consultancy, health, IT, and companies like the Big Fours, Atos, Cancom, Publicis, Aricoma, Unisys, Wipro is Fujitsu, and so on.
Mm,
With mostly from, as I said, Belgium, Italy, Spain, with OTE from Greece, Indra from Spain, and so on. And very proud of our colleagues. We are expanding every day to new countries and with new tools. And also happy that even in the first year when we launched this, the European Commission gave us an award, and then we collected a couple of more
that's a good
awards
start.
from Gartner platforms, Deloitte, and Google. So
That's a good welcome platform. So I mean, this is really important, not only for the big companies out there, but specialty providers, experts, small businesses, which also have a special recognition in the European Union or marketplace, if you want. Especially now that there are many companies, many countries actually looking for new relationships, new markets. I think this is a fantastic tool. So my question is,
indeed,
yeah, please go ahead.
this was indeed something trend that I noticed in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, during the previous economic crisis. In times of uncertainty, governments tend to step in with very few exceptions. There were some exceptions that are not worth mentioning, but in principle, starting with the big economic crisis and the Roosevelt rebuilding plan, and in every economic crisis throughout history, governments step in when the economy is um, not certain. And in 2010, I noticed this in Brussels quite strongly when the economies of some countries, and especially the private economies, the construction industry, the financial industry, started to show signs of trouble, especially in Spain, in Italy, or Greece. I have seen a boost in the competition
Yeah,
in public sector markets.
that's why
As
the
you were
stimulation
saying,
is in,
small
stimulation.
and big
Yeah,
companies start to rely more on government spending and are moving towards more stable markets like government. So I've seen an increasing competition in those years, a reduction in pricing in the public sector as well. And we are not sure where we are in the economy today, but there are signs of trouble. And we have macroeconomic impact, including from the trade tariff wars and the macroeconomic strategic
yeah,
environment.
yeah,
I do expect, and we should look into how this impacts the public sector market as well, which, as I was saying, tends to be not only stable, but also to push more money into the economies when the economic situation is unstable.
yeah. Completely subscribe to that. And again, to what I said earlier, I think there are new relationships building. No? Both the The issuing organizations are looking for suppliers they want to work with in from certain geographies, and also the suppliers are looking in which market should I go to. No? That's the whole import export discussion. So a lot of opportunities. I do think that we will have another podcast or episode about how to maneuver complex projects, but that's for another time. My last question for you would be today: how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about you, your company, and the product?
So I am very reachable. We are Hermix. We are on hermix.com, and you can find on our website lots of details of what we are doing. We are very transparent about what we do, how we do it, about data. There are tutorials, tips and tricks, and support. You can sign up directly on our website and get an account and get to use freely a version of Hermix. There are obviously more and more levels and more advanced and intelligent reports. Well, that's the summary of what we do. You can also always find me also on LinkedIn, on the universities' websites with whom we collaborate, and so on.
Fantastic. We will, of course, share the contact information in the show notes. That has been fantastic. I learned a lot. And I think this is going to be really interesting for companies who are looking for new opportunities. Stefan, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. And I wish you good luck and good continuation with your efforts.
Pleasure to be here and lovely to be talking to you.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye.